Before today's show, I wanted to start off with just a little teaching moment for you to listen for, because Caitline's birth story is an amazing example of owning your autonomy no matter what circumstances you find yourself in. And she really illustrates that putting in the time, effort, and work into preparing for birth is what got her through it. Another thing that Caitline mentions is how she slowed down during her pregnancy. She added meditation. She made time to connect with her baby, intentional time to connect with her baby. And we talk about it in class, that slowing down in pregnancy is an essential part for preparing for postpartum, believe it or not, because time in postpartum literally stops as you take care of this new human. And for us high achievers, it is a killer on your idea of productivity. But when you've been practicing the slow down and purposely taking time to be with your baby during pregnancy, it makes for a much easier transition into parenthood as you're figuring out your footing and gaining your confidence as a mom. And my students who have taken this advice to heart during class report doing so much better in postpartum. Caitline's younger sister also joins us today, who played the supporting role in her sister's labor and birth. I love recording birth stories, and I hope you can pick up some tools for your own journey. Welcome to the Birth Education Center podcast, hosted by myself, Care Messer, an entrepreneur, birth educator, and doula. My team and I want to help you discover your options in birth and postpartum, how to find your voice, and how to use that voice to navigate our maternal healthcare system. You and your baby are not just a number. This information includes doulas too. Now let's get started. All right, I am so excited today to welcome Caitline to share her story, and her sister Chaylah, who was her birth partner during the whole event. When I went to pick up Caitline's placenta at the hospital, Chaylah came down and brought it to me. And as soon as I said, "Oh, how did everything go?" And she just started to sob. And then I started to sob. She said, "I was really trying to hold it in. I was really trying to be strong." And I'm like, "No, you can cry. It's okay to cry." Because was that your first birth that you'd ever seen? Witnessed?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's overwhelming and it's beautiful. And every birth I attend, I still cry. It might not be like a sob baby cry in front of everyone, but it's so beautiful and so overwhelming, and no matter what kind of birth it is, to see that new fresh human. So that was one of the moments where I was like, this story really needs to be recorded. And we have been putting it off for a while. Caitline took classes a year ago with Ashley, private classes. And so I'm really excited to have both of you guys on today. Caitline, let's start with you. You were on your way to get into classes with us, and then timing was funky and you knew you had to start. So we decided that you would do private classes instead of join the group late. And you're currently a single mom, like I'm a single mom, and I know the load that is. So why don't we start with, what were your first thoughts when you were like, I'm pregnant?
When I first found out that I was pregnant, I didn't really believe that it was happening. Kind of the start of my journey is I met somebody and knew him for a very short amount of time. And then within 1 month of officially dating, I found out I was pregnant. So it definitely wasn't something that I had prepared for, really even expected. I think I was mainly afraid in the beginning. I was fearful of the unknown. I didn't know what to expect or what I really wanted to do. And so I kept my pregnancy secret for the entire time. I didn't announce it until actually after I had already given birth.
To your family and friends and everyone?
So I only announced it to my close family, like mom, dad, siblings, and a few of my very best friends. But even the people that I see multiple times a week, I didn't tell them until after I was 20 weeks pregnant. Yeah, I took a lot of time to sit with the idea and see how I felt about things, what I was going to do, and which route I wanted to take. I actually did consider adoption at one point. I didn't even expect myself to be in a position of being a mother. So yes, in the beginning, my initial thoughts were just, what am I going to do? I had no idea.
Like,
yes.
It's a big secret to keep. And then at the same time, what an amazing surprise at the end.
Right.
And by the way, I had a baby last week with my sister. FYI, guess what happened last week? Oh my gosh, it would just to be a fly on the wall for the faces when they got that information. That's fantastic. Fantastic. So yeah, I can imagine a lot of fears were coming up and a lot of worry because that is a big deal. Do I keep the baby? Do I place the baby for adoption? I'm an adoptive mother as well. So that's absolutely a lot. And we had talked a couple times before you decided on classes and what to do. And there were your basic fears that you were coming into class with. Can you go over some of what those were?
My initial fears were just questioning my strength and whether or not I was going to be able to give birth natural without any medication or pain relief. I was fearful that something might go wrong during labor or delivery with me or the baby. I just had anxiety around maybe she's going to be born with something that isn't expected or some diagnosis at birth that might come up.
I think a lot of us have those exact worries and thoughts, and some of us choose to sit in fear around them, and others choose to move forward and figure it out. And what made you decide to do a natural birth?
I think in the beginning of my journey, me really having to recognize my strength and that I was capable just really motivated me to do it to the best that I could. And so I think I wanted to try and trust in myself and see if I could do it. But ultimately, once I got more educated, I realized how important it was for me to have the most natural experience possible to connect with my baby and to allow her to have the safest, most natural experience as well on her journey to have her side.
And Chaylah, when all of this was going on, what were your thoughts? Because obviously you knew she was having a baby.
Yeah, I think when she first called me and told me that she was pregnant, I didn't think she was serious. So I was like, no, you're not. And then I saw the look on her face and she was like, yeah, I am. And I was like, oh, okay. And I think I was napping before or something, so I wasn't all there. And
we're having a baby. I'm going to have a niece or a nephew.
Yeah, but that didn't even sink in, I don't think, until the month before she was going to be born.
I see your belly. I'm touching your belly. I'm here for comfort. Are you really pregnant? Oh, yeah. It is. It's shock. It is shock. And I think parents feel the same way. You have a mound of a belly, but until that baby's out, I think that's where it's such a relief. And also at the same time, that's why we break down, because it's it's real. There's a kid sitting right here.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. So tell me the best things you did to prepare for the kind of birth that you wanted, because there's a lot. If you want a natural birth, there's a lot to do unless it just happens to fall out.
So starting from the beginning of my pregnancy, I really focused on my diet and my exercise. And it wasn't anything strenuous, but I made sure to go on walks regularly and just move my body and to take time for my mental health, to try to do some meditation or slow down and read, or if I was nervous about things, and I would ask questions or look into them a little bit more and rely on my support around me. Also, once I did start the classes, my favorite thing was probably the affirmations. I found those very helpful. I listened to them every single day. I listened to them in the morning while I was in the shower on repeat. I listened to them while I was driving. And it just really made me believe in myself. And it put thoughts in my mind that I wouldn't have really thought of before hearing the affirmation, that made me feel so confident in myself and made me believe that I could do it and trust that I was able, and my baby did know what to do, and we were a team on this journey, and it was going to be such a beautiful thing, and that's exactly how it turned out to be.
I think you already said your diet, but implementing dates in the raspberry leaf tea.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. I knew there was something else. I was drinking red raspberry leaf tea every day, all day, and also eating an enormous amount of dates. I went to Costco and they have this huge tub of dates. I ate them all. I was eating 10 a day, 15. I was just eating them, especially towards the end of my pregnancy, because I was 10 days past my due date. And so I was very ready to have that baby, and I was just eating all those dates and drinking the tea as much as I could.
Maybe they'll give me a laxative effect and the baby will just poop out. Obviously, I'm not going to give any medical advice through the podcast. However, there is a wives' tale about the red raspberry leaf tea. Drinking that during labor has sped up some labors that I have been to, and the midwives that I have worked with, the old school midwives, have sworn by it. If you can get a gallon of that red raspberry leaf tea down during labor, it's going to speed things up. There's probably no medical science behind that. I just know I've witnessed it several times, but all we can do is prepare our body. And that's obviously you were ODing on preparing your body because you wanted that baby out, which I totally get. And I remember you also telling me that you did 2 birth plans.
I did. So initially I did have a fear about having to get a C-section. And it was something that I was very resistant to, and I wanted to avoid it, and I didn't want to think about it. And I was like, no, it's not going to happen. I don't even want to go down that road. But when working with Ashley, we faced that fear and recognized that if I do have a plan for the unknown, it doesn't become so scary for an unknown anymore. So I made a birth plan for having a cesarean section, and I also made a vaginal birth plan. And just having both of those in hand and knowing regardless of what happens, I'm still in control of the situation gave me a lot of comfort, and I was confident going into the delivery room.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we do prep in class is to, if you want the kind of birth that you want, you go all in 100% without being attached to the outcome. Because at the end of the day, this baby guides whatever's going to happen, and you have to be open to that, but it shouldn't stop your preparation. And it shouldn't be that, what if, but maybe not. You're going all in. And that's the secret to putting all of your effort towards where you want to be, and also allowing for baby and you to do the dance that you need to do. So where did it start? When did it start?
It was the morning of June 9th at about 2:30, 2:45. I woke up and I was experiencing different sensation that I was used to. And I didn't want to get my hopes up because a few weeks prior I had false labor. And so I was just trying to stay calm and rest as much as possible. And I got in the shower, and a little bit later, Chaylah came in to check on me. And she was actually supposed to fly out that morning. And I remember her saying, "Sister, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm good, but I think I'm in labor." And she said, "Well, I guess I'm not getting on my plane today." And so that was just exciting. I think even just hearing that made me feel more comfortable. But so I labored at home for, I believe it was 17 hours. It was pretty tolerable. And I sat in the shower for a bit and then got out and got myself together, got ready and made sure my bags were packed and all of that.
And Chaylah, you're acting as doula during this time. So what were you thinking? We were just taking things slow. We just continued like a normal morning routine, tried to eat something, and I was just supporting her through her contractions and in any way that I knew that I could, and tried to reference the videos that she showed me. And I think in the moment it was kind of nerve-wracking because it's like, oh shoot, this is actually happening right now and there's no going back. But
nope, going back.
we were in it for the long run there. And just giving her space too. Allowing Caitline to be grounded and get in the mind space that she needed to be in to allow her labor to progress.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times as doulas, when we're brand new, we feel like we have to do something all the time. And birth takes space. Sometimes it's very mellow. And the fact that you two are so trusting and that you could allow for that ebb and flow is what makes a good labor. So you're a natural born doula, whether you know it or not.
Thank you.
She was also really great at making sure that I was drinking my water and I was eating food. And
and I think I also took the time to go over in my head everything that Caitline wanted as far as her birth plan. If I would run that by Caitline, like in between her contractions.
Absolutely. Well, advocacy is number one in a birth, right? You've got to know, if I have to speak for her, what am I going to say? And it's just communication and really getting the education to know what she wants, which is why she was educated. She knew what she wanted, which is sexiest thing about birth to me, is a good education. Just saying. Okay, Caitline.
All right. So continuing on, I remember midday, I was feeling pretty exhausted, about 2:00 in the afternoon. And I decided I was going to lay down and try to take a nap. And there was one point when I got very emotional because I didn't know what to expect. I'd been up for hours and I knew that I had a long way to go. So I took some time and took a nap, and it was in and out, but it was still very helpful. And then actually took time to go into my bedroom because the father of my baby was at my house and I was feeling very vulnerable and I just wanted to be left alone. I didn't want to be observed. I didn't want any of that. So Chaylah and I went to my bedroom and we just sat there on the ball, listened to the affirmations and just really regrounded myself. And I was able to refocus. And we were pretty good about taking time like that to make sure we consistently stayed where we wanted to be instead of being distracted by all of the other things going on. Later on, it was about 5 p.m. and my labor was stalling and I was starting to get kind of worried. So we decided to go for a walk. I just needed some fresh air to get a little bit of movement, take my dog out. So Chaylah and I went for a walk and I told her that I think when we get back that I'm going to want to go to the hospital pretty soon just to make sure the baby's okay. And so we got home and decided to head to the hospital. I remember right when we got there, we went upstairs and I had the strongest surge that I had experienced so far as I was standing in the waiting room. And it just hit me like, oh, wow, we're here. This is really happening. And the discomfort was different. And so we went into triage to make sure that I was able to be admitted. We did all the vitals, checked baby, and then it was time to do cervical exam. I had asked to empty my bladder before the exam so I could relax as much as possible. And I was very thankful that I felt confident enough to advocate for myself and to take that time and do that. I emptied my bladder, and while I was in the restroom, I had bloody show, and I thought something was wrong because it was a lot of blood, and I didn't know that happened. I called the midwife and I told her what was going on. She said, no, that's good. That's good. And so I was like, okay, it came out.
Isn't it funny? When do I bleed in a toilet and it's good? It's either
right.
like the end of a period and I'm annoyed by it, or I'm in labor and it's not supposed to be happening, but it really is supposed to be happening. We like those signs.
So then I got checked and I was 5 centimeters and 100% effaced. So we were able to get admitted, but right when I put my diaper on, my water broke too. So then things just were progressing even more. So
that effacement is what takes a long time. So when you stay home and get that paper thin, then then the last part is just opening up. So it's that effacement in early labor. So yeah, sleep, rest, eat, take the dog on a walk. Like, don't rush because thinking we're running to the hospital, they're going to save me. It's intense. They don't save you. If anything, it adds hours to your labor because they're checking your blood pressure and they're asking you questions. And they're keeping you out of your zone and they're, doing little stops to your hormones that are flowing. So no, you did great.
I feel like I went to the hospital at the right time, and I kept trying to remind myself, when I know it's time, I will know it's time. Looking back, it was the perfect time. I got there right when my water broke and things started to pick up. So it was great. Let's see. Shay, do you have anything to add as far up to this point?
On our way to the hospital, we were following the father of Caitlin's child, and Caitline and I did a practice run where we drove to the hospital for my comfort because I knew while she was in labor I might be more nervous or something, so I needed to know where I was going. But I decided to follow him, and we actually ended up going to the wrong location. And in the moment, I think it was a mental block for Caitline, or it just added more stress to this situation that we were already in. And from that point, I just decided to essentially take the reins. I was like, okay, I just have to go back. I put it in my maps and I just did it. And I think that was a pivotal point for me too, of having the courage to step up and being able to advocate for Caitline. I think that was the first moment where I was like, okay, this is just the beginning of what it's going to be like in the delivery room.
I love that you took the role on. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, because birth's unpredictable. You don't know what to expect. And especially as a sister role who flew in to keep you company and have a baby, you don't know what you don't know till you're right there. And it's stepping up and saying, this is my sister. I know how to comfort her. I know how to do this. Like it's not that difficult, especially when you know somebody, but it feels like, can I open my mouth? Can I really do this? And you can. Yes, you can.
Yeah. And I think just knowing that and trusting in yourself that you can and you are able to do that for your loved one.
All right. Well, we got to our room, the actual birth center that I was going to, and they had started filling the tub up when I was in triage, and I was thinking, I had this whole idea, oh yeah, I'm going to labor in the tub, and it's going to be so relaxing, and I love the water. I wanted to get in the tub right away, because like I said, my water had broke and things that, and I got in the tub, and initially I was like, okay, this is all right, but after a little bit of time, I realized that I was very uncomfortable and I couldn't hold myself and feel grounded, and I was all floaty and moving around, and I just couldn't focus. And I almost felt like it was making the intensity of even higher, and it was just so distracting. So I had to get out of the tub, and I decided to lay on the bed. I laid on my side for I'd probably been there for 2 hours, and they checked me and I was at 6 centimeters dilated. It started at a 5. And so to me, that was discouraging centimeter. I've been doing all of this work and the numbers didn't seem to reflect what I was experiencing.
Isn't it so funny? You think
point,
sometimes that getting a check is just going to make you magically have all this power. And then it can also, those numbers can be defeating. Birth numbers are not linear because you can be at 6 and 3 minutes later be at 10. Yeah. When your body decides to fly open, it decides to fly open. And so I've been at where birth, they check and she's 4 and we literally have a baby in 15 minutes. But it can be so defeating, so defeating. I hate numbers for that reason.
Yeah. And I did remember in the back of my mind talking to Ashley about it. And I didn't know if I wanted to hear the numbers or not, because I didn't know that they didn't really mean much and they could change. But I think I heard her voice in the back of my mind, it's okay, numbers, it doesn't matter. But when I was feeling what I was feeling, it mattered.
It does.
So
it was in the room because we didn't even mention him, but he was just watching.
I remember when I first got there, I asked him to leave the room because I needed to use the restroom and I didn't put him there. And I wanted my body to be able to do whatever it felt like it needed. And so I left the room. And he stepped outside for a bit and then came back in. And then he was at the head of the bed when she was born. And then I remember at one point he was to my side. There was one point when I wanted to give up and I was, and he was very helpful. He did talk, imagining the baby. He said, you're going through all of this because you're going to have your baby. She's going to be here soon. You get to meet her soon. What do you think her hair is going to look like? What color are her eyes going to be? And it really brought me back to why I was doing this and that it was okay. And it was going to be so worth it because I was, that was probably the biggest takeaway, was that moment when he brought me back and talked about the baby before we even met her and just visualizing it and, bring me back to a good headspace.
That's pretty intuitive for him to know how to do that too. You had some intuitive helpers that day.
Yeah, it was such a good more than I already. I believe at that time is when I asked for the nitrous because I was feeling really all over the place and transitioning and hearing the number. It kind of riled me up a bit and I needed to be brought back down. And so I asked for the nitrous. We did the affirmations again and Chaylah really helped me reground myself. I also remember I had to get up and use the restroom and that was a terrible experience for me. It was caused so much discomfort. And so, yeah, after all of that, I got the nitrous, laid back down, and got refocused. And there was a point when I had no concept of time. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. It was almost just like I was in a black room and everything was still. I don't know how much time passed or what was going on, but I just remember feeling very relaxed and very, very concentrated and I was okay. Like I could handle.
I wish that every parent could have those moments, because I remember the same thing. It was after transition and I just went to a different land. I don't even know where that land was, but I was actually in the boat with my dad, and it was so peaceful and so calm. And I'd come back in, do the surge, and then go back to my boat with my dad. So it's a very peaceful place, transitional feeling. It's a different energy.
Yeah, it was. I wish I could go back whenever I felt like it. Just being in that state was exactly. So after I was feeling like I had everything together, things continued to progress. And there came a point when I was feeling like I couldn't bear it much longer. And I wasn't really saying much, but I'm guessing that it was noticeable to the nurses and people in the room, because one of the nurses did offer me pain relief. She said, Caitline, I noticed that you're pretty uncomfortable. Like you seem like you're in quite a bit of pain. We do have options. If you want an epidural, we could get things going for you. And then that's when Chaylah advocate for me, saying like she doesn't want to hear about pain relief often. Unfortunately, I had already heard it and it was in my mind. But that was another point when she was able to advocate for me, and she knew my birth plan, and it made me feel supported, even though it was something like so.
I feel for you, Chaylah, jumping in with that.
I felt fine jumping in when she approached Caitline, like saying, I've noticed you're in a lot of pain. There was a part of me that was like, stop her. Don't let her continue. But I was like, okay, maybe she's not going to offer pain relief or anything. And then she did. And at that point, I was like, dang it. Like, unfortunately, I felt like I failed my sister at that time, because I knew that was such an important part of her birth plan, was to not be offered any pain relief. She explained to me how it can take you out of your zone and just the impact that it can have on you, knowing that there is a way out of the discomfort that you're feeling. But I really tried to transition out of that and refocus Caitline's mind and remind her why she wants to have the birth plan that she has. And from there, I remembered that Caitline gave me the printed out birth plans for the cesarean and vaginal birth. And I gave it to the nurse. And I think that was just one moment where, you know, I should have did that at the beginning, but it's something that it did happen. And I did what I could in the moment to change it.
Yeah. And it's hard to remember, birth plan, first thing, because you're in the middle of labor at that point, right? Water had just broken. It's super intense. Yeah. You're totally forgiven for that, girl. We've all been there.
Thank you.
Oh man. Well, hearing that was very distracting, because I was feeling very intense sensations and I was feeling pretty defeated. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And I remember hearing my own voice saying, like, you can't, like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I need, like, somebody help me. Something help me. Like, this is really hard. But I did not say the code word. Chaylah and I discussed a code word, because I told her, you're going to see me in pain. I'm probably going to say I can't do this. I might be saying, I don't want to do this anymore. But until I say this code word, I do not want the
What was your code word?
Purple.
Purple.
It was purple. Yep, the color purple. And I remember thinking in my head, like, purple, purple, purple. But my voice, I just couldn't find the words, but I wanted to say it. And then I got checked again, and I was 8 centimeters.
Transition time, girlfriend.
I went from a 6 to an 8. I'm only halfway to where I want, essentially. And so that, again, man, those numbers got in my head. And I asked the nurse, okay, about how much time does it usually take when somebody's at this stage for them to have the baby? Because I'm holding on by a thread here. And I told Chaylah, if it's more than an hour, I'm done. And she said, about 2 hours. And I was like,
Isn't it amazing how words,
gosh.
just the language, can defeat you? Instead of saying you're almost there.
Yeah.
If she had said you're almost there, that would have been a game changer.
Yeah, I think that was the closest I was to not continuing with the birth plan that I had in mind, because it felt so unbearable at that time, and I was feeling so distraught here and there. The other thing was that I was anticipating a doula coming, because my hospital had doulas that were on call, that were like, is she ever gonna, I need something. I felt like I needed something so strongly, whether it was to change my position or I don't know. I was still laying on my side at that point, and then I just felt where I was like, I need to move right now. And I remember Chaylah was doing hip squeezes, and she just completely hands up and like backed off. And I got on all fours, and I was hanging on to the head of the bed, and then I was on my knees. And I remember just burying my face and thinking to myself, this is not going to take me 2 hours. Like, this baby she's ready. And so I feel like I need to push. And she checked and said, oh, it's just a little bit of bulging tissue. That's normal pressure from the baby's head. I was like, okay. And then the next surge, my body just pushed all by itself. I didn't. And then I said, I'm pretty sure that's the baby's head. And then the nurse looked underneath blanket, and she's like, oh, she said, push the button, push the red button. So they had to call for help. The nurse delivered the baby, and everybody rushed in, and she had already, right when I changed positions, though, it was like, it just happened so fast.
Because your body knows, and you know, if we can be in touch with our instincts, like, I gotta get up, and you know it. You're not going to stay pregnant forever. Mm-hmm. Like, the natural flow of labor knows how to get that baby out.
Right. I couldn't have not pushed if I tried.
So how many pushes did you have?
Yeah. 2? It was quick.
It was like, I remember flipping over, and like the first push-ish that I was more like I was hunching over a little bit. And then second was when the baby's head, and then her body came third.
And I don't know.
So I guess.
And I don't know why I'm surprised, because I only had 2 pushes with mine too. But it's just a rare thing, because I pushed for 2 hours, I pushed for 3 hours, and it's like sometimes your body's just ready, and it just does it.
I mean, it was so fast that the nurse had to deliver her before anybody could have made their way in, and her head was already out when the nurse looked. So
I'd much rather have the nurse catch and then say, don't push. We have to wait till the doctor gets here. I'm like, don't listen to that. Do your thing. Get the baby out. Why are we stopping? Let that baby go. Chaylah, how was that? Were you on the side? Were you in front? Where were you?
Yeah, when Caitline was at that point and I was doing the hip squeezes because it seemed to really help with her, I felt pressure, almost as if I could feel the baby's head trying to push her way down. It popped in my mind. I'm like, I feel like I might be like pushing and holding her back from being able to make her way down. And there was one surge where I didn't do the hip squeezes. And then that was when Caitline was like, I have to move positions. And so instantly she moved positions. And then, like she said, from there on out, there was just 3 pushes. And there was a moment where she like looked and she's like, where is everybody? I'm going to have this baby. And the nurse was, no, it's totally normal. And
it's just Caitline, bulging tissue. Yeah. It's an 8-pound bulge of tissue.
Yep. And then she came over and checked, and she said, oh, yep, that's her head. And then, Caitline pushed him in. It was quick. It was very fast. And I think on my end, being able to be in tune with my sister and being able to know as much as I could what she needed, and also being confident in myself that I was making the right call, because a part of me was like, the hip squeezes are alleviating the sensation that Caitlin's feeling, but I feel like it might be holding some things back. And in a sense, it was scary to not do that to help alleviate what Caitline was feeling, but in the end, it helped her get to the point of having her baby.
Chaylah, I want to point out that you listen to your intuition.
Yeah.
And we are trained not to listen to our intuition from a very young age, just in society standards. And when you are in the moment and in tune and you trust your gut thinking, oh, I don't know if this is right, but you did it anyway, it was exactly right. Because our intuition is right. Fantastic.
Chaylah was on the bed with me the whole time. Well, for a majority of the time that I remember. It was a pretty large bed. So she sat on the bed with me the whole time, and she was on the bed when the baby was born as well.
Yeah, just off to her side. And I remember I grabbed Caitlin's phone and I was like, I had to get pictures of this. So I just started clicking the button as I was trying to comfort Caitline too. And so we got some good.
It turned out terrible.
I think they turned out pretty good, actually.
Little blurry,
but you get the idea behind it. And I was glad that I did that. So she has those photos forever to look back on, and yeah.
With birth juice all over her phone. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
great
much.
Photos. Hey, in the moment, you guys will never forget that. That's a bonding experience for real. Caitline, what would you say the theme of your labor and birth and maybe even pregnancy was?
I would say to trust in myself. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have a lot of support, and I'd never done it before. I never gave birth, so I, during pregnancy, had to trust that I was doing what I needed. I was preparing as much as I could. And then while I was in labor, trusting that I could do it and trusting that my baby knew how she was going to be born. And then even since after, I just trust her, and I tried to read her and recognize when she needs something and trust that she knows. So it's just been based off of trust. And
I feel the same way. That was one of the main things that my birth taught me. Like you trust yourself. It takes your trust up to a whole other level. And you can't really explain that until you've lived it. But it's like, I remember telling my husband, you could never say no to me again. Just FYI, I just did something that I never thought I could do. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I am on cloud 50,000 million. Do you remember that overwhelming feeling as you're holding that little wet baby and just feeling like, I can't believe I did this?
It was the most amazing feeling I think I've ever experienced. I remember just feeling like time didn't exist, and I was so happy. I never felt more beautiful in my life. I never felt more at peace and just so accomplished. And it was the hardest thing that I've ever done, and I had the greatest reward that I could have ever asked for. That moment and having my baby there and us being safe and knowing that I did it was more than.
And how do you think all of that, like the whole experience and everything that you practiced, prepared you to parent Amaya?
I think I, since then, have just tried to be very aware about slowing down and being mindful, to just trust that I'm being a good mom and I am doing the best that I can and I am providing for her, and things are going to turn out even more beautiful than I might imagine. And so far our journey has been nothing short of amazing.
And focusing on the positive of what is next, what could be, what, like everybody says, what kind of day could today be? Instead of it's going to be a hard day, but be open to the possibility of it being sexy and amazing and fantastic with endless possibilities instead of a lot of roadblocks makes a huge difference in how we're looking forward to things.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give new parents with how to prepare, what to look forward to?
I would say for preparation, definitely take the time to educate on things that are going to come up once baby is. when they first are born, it's all relaxing and chill, but then in comes the doctors and nurses, they're ready to do all tests. And you want the confidence to be able to advocate for yourself and for your baby, and knowing what to expect, knowing which questions are going to come up and what your answer is going to be before it's even asked. It makes that whole period a lot easier, and it doesn't feel like so much pressure. And you can, like, that's already taken care of. We're here. This is what's going to happen. Do what needs to be done, but I'm here with my go over your birth plan with your things are going to happen maybe the way you're expecting, but they're going to change a little bit. So go over different scenarios. And I think they are so close, and we were able to connect during the entire experience that there was never anything that came up that I would have changed. But that's because we are so close and we do have great communication. So the communication is good between both parties, and to just soak in every moment. I know everybody says that and it sounds cliche, but it happens so quickly. And I feel like the first few months were just a blur because you're trying to get in the swing to adjust. And I always felt like there was something that I needed to do or to catch up on. But looking back, I didn't need anything other than be there for my baby and take care of myself and just take in the moment.
Yeah, we forget to slow down because it's so busy.
I think that I underestimated the difficulty of it. I had this idea, you have to, I can feed her and change her and gets good rest, and I know I can manage that. But when she was here, there was so much more to it. Like, on top of hormones, on top of being by myself, my sister ended up having to leave the day after I got home from the hospital. And so my mother was able to come support me, but she was only here for, I think, 2 weeks. It was a lot of work. So building your community of people and your support system before having the baby is going to
it is so important to have your backup support, because not only you've got your hormones, you're so tired and you've been feeding 24/7, and doing it by yourself is no picnic.
Have food prepped.
Have lots of food prepped.
Seriously. Yeah, I didn't take that one seriously. And
Chaylah, what about you? What would you give advice for partners? I have to compliment both of your advocacy skills, because Caitline had already gone through, like, I know what's going to be a trigger for me. I know what I'm going to say. I'm going to over prepare for, the newborn procedure stuff afterwards so that I can stay in a good mindset because I know what I want ahead of time. And Chaylah, you would just read that room and speak up. And I'm so impressed by that, because it's not as easy as it sounds. And you didn't have the birth classes and the practice that a lot of our partners have ahead of time. So you guys, Caitline, you have a great sister.
I know.
Yeah, I think for partners to, like Caitline said, have a thorough understanding of the birth plan, know plan A and plan B. If you have any questions on anything, make sure that's sorted out before you're actually in the delivery room. And like I said before, just be confident in yourself. It can be scary to advocate for your loved one, but knowing that is why you are there and you are fully capable of it, and not being afraid to speak up because you are confident in the birth plan, the way that you want things to go. So being able to share that with your birthing team is very important. I also think making sure that you're taking care of yourself in the early stages. Like, if you feel as if you need to take a nap, take the nap then. If you're hungry, eat then. Make sure you're drinking water every time you're telling your partner to drink water. Making sure that you are taking care of yourself at the same time as you're supporting them, because you want to be able to show up as your best self in any way that they need during active labor and throughout the entire time. But most importantly, when things are really starting to progress. Also knowing that it's hard seeing your loved one in so much discomfort, but also knowing that it's not a bad state of discomfort. Everything that is happening is natural, and it's supposed to happen in order for you to bring this baby into this world. So going into it, knowing to expect the unexpected and being able to adjust to any situation or scenario that comes up, and just reassuring yourself that the sensations that they're feeling is okay, and they're okay. They may be uncomfortable, but it's necessary.
And it's tricky being the support person on the side watching your person be in pain. And I love that Caitline used the affirmations the way they're intended to be used, because if you listen to them all the time and have them semi or completely memorized, they are one of the best labor tools ever, because you know what's coming next and your mind is following that as your surge is ending. And you're like, oh, it's done. Okay. And then you get your breath and then you go right back to that affirmation, knowing what's next. And then the surge is over. It is one of the best distraction tools. And having that in the background keeps everybody calm, because affirmations are building confidence, even in the birth partners in the moment. Like, I've got this. This is a natural progression. I speak clearly with my words, and you go through those different power centers over and over. It does build who you are and what you're doing in the moment. It's like one of your best cheerleaders.
Yeah. I would just say another thing, making sure that you do give the birth plan at the beginning of everything, so everyone is on the same page, and actually going over it with the nurse so they're on the same page as you. And if they have any questions, you're able to answer them beforehand.
We do forget to do that at times. So
you do.
Yeah, that's not a rookie mistake. That's just we do it. So just so you're aware. And Caitline, I would love to read the text that I got as we were preparing for this that you sent me. Do I have permission to share a little bit about that? Because it just made me do it. And
sure, I don't know what it says.
It made me do a little energetic backflip, because this is how I felt after my birth. She said, I have become so passionate about pregnancy and birth since my experience, and I've considered pursuing something that enables me to share my experience and empower mothers. She'd asked me if she could come and teach hypnobirthing. And that is exactly how I felt. Once that baby was out, you could not shut me up. So I totally relate to that. Absolutely get it when you can feel, your empowerment. It wasn't something that somebody gave to you. You own it in that moment. So sexy. Absolutely love it. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that either one of you want to say, or another comment?
During labor, don't take anything personal that your partner says. Take it with a grain of salt because they are in a heightened state. Everything is a lot more sensitive, and if they swat your hand off of their back, it's okay. It's nothing personal. It's just not what they wanted in the moment, and being able to know that it's nothing against you and move past it and try something else. I think that's very important, to just take things lightly and not personal.
Did you get swatted a few times? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't get swatted a few times. I decided to have a piece of gum, and after I had my piece of gum, I walked up to her side and was playing with her hair and comforting her. And she's like, "What is that?" She said, "I do not want a piece of gum. Get that away from me." That's my breath. I'm not giving you a piece of gum. And I just laughed. I was like, oh shoot, that is probably really strong. I just walked away and I sat on the couch. I took my gum out and I was drinking water. But I think the funny thing is the second that I left Caitline's side, even though I had the thing that was not what she wanted, she said, "Get that away from me." The second I left her side, she poked her head up and was looking for me. And I was like, "I'm right here." I'm still
taking my gum out. Remember, you hate my gum? I'm taking it out. And that happens in labor. A dad will swig coffee or something like that. And all of a sudden it's like, what is that smell?
Yeah, it was funny. It was a good time.
The last thing that I think is important to share is that there is so much information out there about birth being a scary thing, or like there's a lot of fear surrounding the topic of childbirth. And there's a lot of doubt. I think majority of women doubt themselves. And after my experience, I feel like I became addicted. Like, it was the most amazing experience. It was so beautiful in every aspect. And it was something that I cherish. And I think of my birth story so often, Chaylah and I. And so I think what I want to share is that even if you have doubts about yourself, it is completely doable. Like, you can do it. Your body can do it. Your body is built for your baby, and your baby is built for your body. It's just such a beautiful thing that if you have the desire to experience it naturally, then do it, because you can and you won't regret it. So just trust in your ability, and
because it takes practice.
Put in the work. It does. Just commit and submit, because you have to commit to the process and the preparation, but then you have to submit to the process, because it will take over and things will play out the way that they'll play out. So,
best advice, and we're ending it there because I couldn't have put it any better. Commit and submit. Thank you both for being here, and I'm so grateful that you could share that with our listeners today.
Thank you.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. And remember, it's your body, your choice, and finding your voice is your power. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us in all the places, and go to BirthEducationCenter.com for our blog and more online education classes. And we'll see you next week.